This is the Let's Get Real Estate Show with your host, Danielle Chiasson.
Full-time investor, strategic consultant, motivational coach, sought-after speaker,
and host of your #1 real estate investing show, Let's Get Real Estate,
where real people are doing real estate.
Hey everybody, welcome to tuning in to the Let's Get Real Estate podcast. I'm here with Danielle, and she is the host. I'm doing the intro. Pass it to Danielle.
Thanks for that, Eric. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. It is the Let's Get Real Estate podcast. I'm your host here, Danielle Chiasson. Got Eric Chang on the call tonight. Thanks for that intro. We thought we'd have a little bit of fun, guys. I hope you don't mind. Actually, since it's a new podcast, we're gonna play with it a little bit and see what we can do. Anyway, so where this came from is because I actually kiboshed or kerfuffled the intro coming in, and my partner here said, hey, let's get Eric to do it. He does it better than you, Danielle. And I'm like, hey, why not? So anyways, guys, we're going to have a little bit of fun with it. I hope that was fun for you. If you want to put it in the comments and tell us what you think about that. Yeah, I think, Eric, you nailed it. You definitely did better than I do, my friend, all day long. So I think we just might have to do that moving forward. Anyhow.
Well, after the podcast title, I just been practicing it. So just so you know, that's what happened.
You guys have been conspiring, hey? Did Evan put you up to this? I think Evan put you up to this. So listen, I just want to say, hey, thanks for jumping on the call, Eric. Master marketer, all kinds of stuff you got going on under your title, real estate, like you just got so much going on. I actually want to defer to you actually to introduce yourself to the listeners. Tell us who you are, what you've done, where you're going, like just who is Eric Chang?
Wow, that is quite an intro. Thank you very much, Danielle. So I consider myself as a problem solver. So that's basically where whenever I see a problem, I believe there's always a solution. I blame that on my dad. He told me when I was very little, typical young kid, say, hey, Dad, I can't do this. I can't do that. And he always pulled me aside and said, Eric, nothing is impossible. So he drilled that in my head every time. For some reason, he didn't do that with my brother. So we have a very different kind of upbringing, and my brother tend to be the one that says no nowadays. I tend to be the one that says yes, because I just always believe there is a solution to everything. So anyway, as Danielle mentioned, I am a marketer. I run a marketing agency, and I more consider myself as a serial entrepreneur. Marketing agency is really just there to solve a problem that many people have with their businesses, which is how do I get exposure? How do I get more leads? How do I get people to know about my brand of my services? A lot of times, my favorite client is to work with people that struggle to get their word out, right? They have great services. They have great products. They're out there passionate about wanting to serve people, except the hardest thing for them is to get people to know them. So that agency takes care of that. And then there's other business I do accomplish the same thing, which is serving my mission to solve problems for people. So real estate is actually one of the reasons why I got into was to solve my own problem, and which is a problem of how do I do with the wealth that I created from every other businesses that I generated, right? That I built, right? So how I got into real estate very first early on is about 10 years ago, that I simply didn't know anything about real estate. I just heard that my accountant kept telling me, all of the wealthy clients I have put money in real estate. I'm like, okay, cool. So that's probably what I should do too. Without taking any training, any courses, any coaching, I just decided to do something really, really dumb by buying my own property at the age of 25. And thank goodness I'm really good at researching. So I've picked up some key rules I was following. So I made sure that, I followed those rules. But that was my intention. I didn't know I was doing in real estate. I just heard it's really good. So I got into it with the intention to park my wealth in real estate, as opposed to use real estate as an asset class to grow my wealth. And that's what happened later on. Fast forward to today, where majority of my wealth was actually created in real estate, where I had no idea. I've also invested in stocks. I know how to do options. I've done warrants. I've done all of these different trades. And I look at all of my returns in aggregate, that at the end of the day, real estate was still the one that gave me the most return out of all of my asset classes I invest in. So other than my small businesses, of course. So that's kind of my little kickstart of what got me to today.
And you have the asset. like when you're doing the stocks and whatnot, I mean, you have a piece of paper that says you're a shareholder and you have X amount of shares, but you don't actually have anything tangible. So that's the nice thing about real estate. I mean, like you're saying, you've outperformed everything else in real estate than you have any other class, but you also have the asset like that. That's just, mind blowing. That's what I love about real estate. So even if there is a bit of a downturn in the market, you still have the asset. So it's almost like protecting your principal a little bit.
Exactly. You hit a spot on there. One thing that I love about real estate is control, right? So with stocks, we really are relying on somebody else, that we're trusting them as a proxy of our wealth or our money to say, we believe you're really good at running your business. So that's why we're going to park our money in your company, believing that you'll generate good return for us, right? But we have no control over what they're going to do, what they're going to say. Yes, you can do shareholder votes, yada, yada, but realistically, you have no control over the direction of the company over the next few quarters. Versus real estate, we have control over everything, right? Down to the flooring we use, down to the property management company was going to use. And I know Danielle, Danielle for a long time now, right? So she's really good on having the right systems and processes in place. And that is something that's really great about real estate, which is we have all these control over what we want to do over our asset.
100%. And the other thing is, I mean, and you mentioned about we don't have control over the executives that run the business, but they may be doing a fantastic job, but maybe the industry tanks for whatever reason, the airline industry, maybe it tanks because of a pandemic, maybe. I don't know, I'm just saying, and that's not by any fault of any executive running the business. Sometimes it's an industry or even just a whole market crash, because there hasn't been a crash because of the pandemic so far, but ultimately there are certain things that are out of the control. But when you have the asset, the tangible asset, when you own that piece of property, I don't want to say it's a guarantee, it's not a guarantee, but it is something tangible that you own. So there is some level of protection there. So kudos to you for jumping in. 25, you said you bought your first property. Hey, kudos to you, Eric. That's awesome. I hope that I can direct my kids to do the same when they're younger as well, because I wished I'd have gotten into the real estate when I was younger. And as you know, that's one of my legacies that I'm going to be planning on doing, is actually hitting up education for the younger people. I think you don't know what you don't know, and if we can help them and teach them and open up their eyes, once you have that knowledge, like taking the blinders off, you can't undo what you know. And then once you get that little bit of a itch, it's like, oh, maybe I should do that, and because I know about this, you can't undo that. So, and we're going to do that together. Actually, you and I, we talked about that. So I'm excited about that. So what I want to do today, actually, Eric, I asked you to come on the podcast today because, you have a really unique way of looking at things. And one of the things that we've talked about a lot is about having the right team. And, I just wanted to ask your opinion and what you think is the challenge in finding that right team. Everybody says, I mean, you jump on all these podcasts like, oh, you got to have a proper power team, find the right team, get the investor friendly person, and realtor and broker and whoever else to jump on your team. But, you have a different approach. And I really wanted you to share that with our audience. How do you go out there and find the right team? What do you look for, Eric? How do you vet for that person?
Yeah, that's a great, great question. So I have a saying that I kind of live by, which is I'm motivated by laziness. So that was my entire objective when I was early on in my early 20s, was I want to be able to get to a point I'm financially independent around 30s. And that was my goal. And I accomplished it at late 20s through having different residual income sources. So one thing that I always thought about, which is how can I get my results instead of having to go through all of these different processes that people tell me that they need to do. And then I look at the processes and I say, how can I hack it, quote unquote, hack it, right? So a big thing that a lot of times that we tend to forget is we believe that there is a very definitive path to success to say you have to pay your dues, you have to do all of these things. It's almost like you're doing a checklist approach. What I also realized is that there's such thing as standing on the shoulder of giants. There are a lot of people that have gone before us, just like Danielle. She's a very successful real estate investor. She's done this for years. She's done a lot of coaching to help a lot of people, right? So if I'm new coming in, right, and that's exactly what I did, is I didn't know what I was doing. But I knew that there are people in my life, right? My accountant was one of them. Say, hey, you should go into real estate. Cool. I don't know anything about real estate, but I know there's people that he knows that has done real estate that I could ask to say if I can look to them as my mentor. So ask them for help, right? Get some directions, pointers. Now, granted, not every single real estate investors are as charitable, willing to go and give up and open up everything in terms of sharing their contacts, sharing their knowledge, right? But I know for a fact, like Danielle lives by the abundance mindset. I live by the abundance mindset. There are people like ourselves out there that believe in passing on the knowledge to the next generation. So that's why you just have to go find these people. And once you find these people, you just success hacking this, right? It's like they're already successful. Why do you have to go through all these hard things, right? If they tell you not to do this, instead of questioning them, like earlier on in my life, I was like debating with these guys, right? It's like, well, I don't know if I really believe in you. And one of the guys said to me, he said, Eric, this is not my first rodeo. So take it whatever it's worth. But just so you know, I've done this a lot. And that really put me in my place, right? Because I was a young punk, just like, I think I can, I can do this better, right? And he's like, you know what? Just take it and then think, how much it's worth to you. And I remember that conversation and I took it to heart. It says, you know what? I'm going to learn to mimic, to copy their model first before I go create my own world, right? So I took the same approach how I done it in business, how I've done it in several companies I've built, right? To real estate business is the exact same way. I go find these people that's already done it. And then I simply just try to mimic the best I can and then improve along the way. Because there's always room to improve. And a lot of times, oftentimes, that a lot of people, like some of my mentors, they're in their 50s or 60s, right? They're in the point they're starting to retire. They're not worried about building their empire anymore. One of my mentors always said this to me. He says, Eric, I'm done. Like I had my point in my life. I was building my empire. Now I'm ready to pass it on, right? So I love this fact that people like yourself that's eager, passionate, and driven that want to learn. And I'm happy to help you open doors, help you to connect, help you to make you successful. So it takes a lot of time to build those relationships. But the way I look at it is that relationship is so much more worth it than trying to figure out all these things out on my own.
And you know what, Eric? I think you made a really good point there. Like, your mentor, he looked at you, and I'll tell you this, if I can offer something to the audience here. If you want to learn from the people who've done it. Now, I have done some coaching, I still do consulting, and I'll tell you there are some students who you tell them this is what you need to do and these are the steps and make sure you implement this and make sure you read that or make sure, but they don't do the work. And ultimately, if you're going to find success, you got to do the work. And Eric, I know you want to take the path of least resistance, but ultimately when you're building anything, there is work that needs to be done. And then afterwards, when you set all the systems in place, it is easier and it does become much easier and you can kind of go on cruise control. But there is work. And as a coach, I'll tell you, and as a mentor now, I have taken mentees where I don't take any money. I just want to help them out. Those are the guys that are, when they're just absorbing everything you're giving and they're making it happen, like I will give to them all day long because I get revitalized out of that. And that's what I'm assuming, like you're the same thing. But as a coach, when you're trying to help somebody, it can suck the life right out of you when they're not doing the work. So, I mean, if you're going to take the time to invest in yourself and get the knowledge, take that and roll with it. If you're not ready to, because knowledge doesn't get you success, it's knowledge plus implementation that will bring success. And if you're not ready to implement, you're just not going to see what you're looking for. You're not going to find that. Yeah, really great points, Eric. That's amazing. So I also want to say too, I like to learn, and I invest a lot in myself, and I love to learn from people that are more smarter than me. And I did a UPW with Tony Robbins, and he says that in UPW, he says, find the people that are experts that live and eat and breathe this and do this and shadow them, connect with them and shadow them and learn from them. Don't reinvent the wheel. That's exactly what you're saying. And it is so true. And I'll tell you, I actually paid a lot of money to get coached and they gave me all the information and this is how you do it. And I tried doing it, and you're laughing because I know you probably did the same thing. Try to do it my own way. So I took what they gave me and went, no, I can do it better this way. And guess what? I learned that I had to do it their way. That's the way to do it. So don't try to reinvent the wheel. You're going to waste your time. So I definitely went through that, and now I'm a much better student when I. So I just wanted to put that out there. But how do you connect? How do you connect with those people? Like, how did you connect with that guy, Eric? How did you find him?
Oh boy, I wish I can remember. I know that he's somebody that a lot of people in the community that people look up to. Granted, I live in a smaller community in Southern Alberta, so it's a very different nature compared to where you live in Ontario, where there's lots of people, right? So one thing that I always talk about in marketing is, it depends on what you do, right? If you're in a smaller area, you want to go broad, right? And then if you're in the big area, in a very populated market, you want to go niche down. And the reason why you do this is because if you go too broad in the big population area, there's too many people that you have to connect with to find who you want to look for, right? So you want to be very specific of the strategy you're looking to implement in real estate and what results you're looking for. And once you niche down to a very defined objective and goals and criteria, it helps you identify the right type of people you can go make the ask, right? If somebody that in the circles that's not quite fitting to your criteria, you can make that ask and then they might be able to help connect you to those people. Now, in terms of the question you asked, like, how do I find that? I really can't remember other than I just knew that because I knew quite a few people in business that knew this person individually. And I think what happened was actually, this was what happened. He ended up reaching out to me needing some marketing work done. And I have a marketing company because I was using the broad approach, right? So I used to do some computer stuff, so people in the community know me as, oh, Eric's the computer guy. And then naturally, people ask me if I can do websites, and I'm like, sure, I can, build out that expertise and by building the team. So we started doing websites, and then naturally, next thing is SEO, And I don't want to get into too much about marketing because this is a real estate podcast. But specifically, the idea was because it's a smaller market, I went really broad. So that allows me to generate more leads coming in, right? So that's how he came in contact with me was his business, which was he was in the resort business that has some timeshares and that specifically own real estate, right? So he reached out to me from that connection, wanting some marketing help. And we started talking about marketing, and that's how we started talking about more about real estate. And then later on, I asked him if he would be open to have to become my mentor, which was funny because I was kind of already positioning him that way before I really even asked that. Later on, I just kind of bring him back, right? It's like Danielle said, there's such thing as being coachable, right? So really, at the end of the day, which one is more important to the listener, right? You're listening to this. Is it your ego or is it the results that you're looking for? And for me, right, I had to balance those two, and I would bring back the results that he told me a few ideas. I'll go implement it. I'll bring it back to him and say, "Hey, I did this. What do you think? What's next?" Right? And because of this dynamic, I think that showed him that I was coachable later on. It wasn't early on. It was later on that I kind of learned that skill set that he just really continued to help me. Like he introduced me to his banker. He's introduced me to some other potential investors of his circles because of that.
That's awesome. Well, what I heard you say there, though, essentially is, ask, two things. One is referrals, get referrals, and you get the referrals by asking, right? And then if you do connect with somebody, ask, would you be willing to help me? What's the worst that they're going to say is no. And it may have and likely does not have anything to do with you because I've had to say no. Can't say yes to everybody, right? And so, but it doesn't hurt to ask. When you ask, you're now opening the door, potentially creating that relationship that could be mutually beneficial. Because I'll tell you, for a mentor, the benefit is really seeing somebody grow, and it's really awesome to watch somebody flourish under your wing and under your guidance. So everybody needs a sense of purpose in life, and that really gives you that solid sense. It's really grounding. So if you are out there listening and you feel that you need the help, don't think you're putting somebody out if you ask them and they say yes, because they have made that decision to say yes, and that's their right to make, not yours, right? And if they say yes, they said it because they need it as much as you do ultimately. So, but yeah, referrals, I think referrals are a great way to meet the people, to kind of network with um, and find them. And there was another, I also heard, if I could remember where I heard it from, But there was another coach of mine. I know who it was actually. I'm not gonna. I don't want to say, but he said, you want to shake the hands with the people you want to become. And so, if you can connect with groups, connect with real estate groups. If you're in marketing, you want to go to marketing events and marketing groups and connect with those people and, share your story, share who you are. And I think that's the best way. Um, but there's something that you're doing. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, if it's all right, like I feel like because both of us are very action oriented people, and I just you lit a fire underneath me, just thinking it's like, okay, listeners are listening to this right now, right? And they're hearing all these things, and okay, I wanted to start taking action. So if you're listening to this, if it's okay with you, Danielle, let's just make a challenge out there, right? So right now, you're listening to this, go write down three people, three. All we're asking is three. We're not asking a lot. Three people in your circle you can go talk to tomorrow. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. Today. You want to take action today, because if it's tomorrow, it's not going to happen. Do it today. Three people that you're actually going to talk to. Call them up right now or text them. Say, hey, can I book a meeting with you? Grab coffee. I love to just get to know you a little bit more. I love to know how you build your real estate business. I love to get to know how you do things, right? If you don't mind, right? And then make sure when you have your meeting, before you go into your meeting, have a very clear objective of what you're looking to accomplish, right? Which is maybe, don't ask too much and say, hey, would you be my mentor? Simply just say, understanding them and find out if what they do in real estate aligns with your goal. And if that's what you want to accomplish, right? Say, can I come? Can I have a follow-up call with them? Because a lot of times, you don't want to just go for that ask people to give back. You want to give them something. You want to show that you're willing to actually take action, and then result in subsequent calls. Then you can eventually just ask that person to be your mentor. Kind of like what happened to me, right? He was mentoring me just by nature of all conversations. And later on, I kept bringing it back to him, show that I'm coachable, show that I'm taking actions. So again, coming back, three people, write it down, text them right now, because we want to see results. That's why Danielle's doing this. She's giving back tonight. She's doing this podcast to help educate, right, people into this business. And that's why she's having guests like myself, right? So we don't want you to waste any more time. So go ahead and take that action right now.
I absolutely love that, Eric. Woo, woo, love that. It's a challenge for the listeners. Hey, listen, and I want to know what your results are. So I want you to go in and I want you to write down your results in the comments, and what kind of feedback you got, and really and if I can just kind of amplify what Eric just said there. Don't just go and ask, because we don't want to just be creating a taking environment. Go and see and explore how you can create a win-win for you and that person. And I'll tell you, myself personally, I've had students come up to me and they say, hey, can I intern for you? Can I help you? So I've done seminars, and I've had my students come into my seminars as volunteers. They help me set up, tear down. They help me, take care of the students and make sure everybody's comfortable and that everything runs smoothly. But the benefit to them is that they get the education for free. They're now in my inner circle. If they need my support, they can pick up the phone and text me or call me. They know that. But you create a situation where it's a win-win for everybody, and it's not just, hey, can I have this, or can I do that, or what can you give me, right? So what can I give you? And it automatically, it's the law of reciprocity. It'll come back to you. So if you put yourself in a position of serving others and trust that it will come back to you 10 times, and it really will. And so I just wanted to make sure to put it out there, so that when you do reach these people, if you want a successful meeting, go in there with the mindset of giving, and also how is that going to serve me as well? So that way you create a win-win. And in the spirit of that, Eric, I wanted to talk about your 100 dot properties. Um, Tell me about this. It's amazing what you're putting together and what you want to do, because speaking of the spirit of giving and helping others, I mean, you just take it to a whole nother level, my friend. So please share with the audience what you're up to.
Absolutely. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to share. So it's a passionate project of mine. Also, it's a legacy project of mine. So what happened was, I talked about my early 20s. I had a very distinct goal which is I want to hit financial independence in my 30s. So that's kind of why I picked the computer science career. Later on, got into marketing. Thought I could just be able to work from home. I had this vision that I wanted to be able to have a laptop, work on the beach. Little did I know that's actually really unrealistic because sand gets into the laptop. Like I actually brought a laptop with me just to try it out. Dumb idea, like really stupid, right? So anyway, that was a bad idea. I moved away. But throughout that journey, that process, and setting that goal, it's really important to have that goal. I worked towards building these different residual income sources that got me there, and real estate was one of them. And now I realized how powerful that is. So a quick little story I want to share with you, listeners here, which was there was a person that I was doing work for, doing consulting for, and I remember, I don't know what's going on, maybe it was a bad day or whatever, he was just lashing out on me, right? And I remember I said to him, and imagine this guy, he's an authority figure. He was my manager slash client, right? And I just said to him, it's like, if you're gonna raise your voice and say that to me again, you'll see that door right there. I'll walk out of that door, and I won't come back. Just remember that. He went quiet. He didn't say one word, and he just like, okay, right? So what I meant by that is the only reason I feel like I can do that is because I had other income sources. I had a real estate portfolio. I felt secure, right? So that empowerment that you gain from having that freedom, you can't trade that anywhere else. So that is why I started the 100 Properties project. It started during COVID because so many people were losing jobs, affected. And I remember thinking that moment, I was like, okay, my marketing company was affected because all of our clients were shutting down, right? So it was a scary time, but I wanted to do something, right? I'm always waiting for that moment in life where I want to come back to that point 5-10 years from now and say, what was the decision I made during COVID? And that resulted in everything else that resulted from that point. So I made a very conscientious effort to say, I want to start something that's going to change people's life. And the biggest thing I can do is to help people get to financial independence. And I can tell you that it's always something I want to do. I want to help people with this. The hardest thing is, how do you create a model that's predictable, that's easy for people to participate in? And there's lots of different things out there, right? You can do, starting a business. You can do this. You can do that. The problem with a lot of the other stuff is, to this point, I haven't been able to find something as predictable, as reliable as real estate. It is a very standardized process. It's a lot of work, like Danielle mentioned earlier, but it's also very predictable. So once you have that process that's there, it allows me to be able to coach people through the whole process. So the whole process is very simple, right? We have something I call a franchise based in real estate investment model, where we invest in very specific markets that are very low risk. And I'm happy to share more details on what that looks like to the audience, in a later time. That help people through the same standard processes by having these team of people that they can work with, so that they can almost have a guaranteed success by follow through the program, right? And the vision is very simple. My goal is to help create 100 millionaires through 100 properties, so that way you can reach your financial independence, so you can go create more impact in the world that you always wanted to do, right? You always have that calling of what you want to do more for your family, for the community, or if the humanitarian trips that's out there. I've done a lot of those. That's why I started this. I'm only going to take a very small percentage of returns on this, just because there's something bigger I'm building. So that's the property. That's right. That's the project. It's called 100 Properties, and the website is 100.properties. That is the website address.
That's friggin' awesome. So you want to create 100 millionaires through 100 properties, and that's just so phenomenal. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy to me. It's an amazing feat, and it's an undertaking. And you did mention, so you do have some people enrolled already. You are taking more enrollment, but there's a certain profile that you're looking for. So they're going to have to reach out to you. Can they reach out to you at 100 Properties? Is that where they can reach out to you?
Yeah. So we have an application form on our website. So go check out the website, and based on the criteria that you filled out, we'll reach out to you and follow up with you for sure.
That's awesome. So Eric, I just want to say thank you so much. We do have an About Eric Chang page on our podcast website. So if you want to find out more about Eric, read his bio, see what his website will be listed there. All of that fun stuff will be on our website, just under the guest tab, and you can connect with him that way. And or you can go straight to 100.properties and connect with him that way through the application form. Guys, thank you so much for listening and jumping on the call again. I hope this was beneficial for you. Again, Eric, always a pleasure having you on. You are a wealth of knowledge, and I think definitely an asset to me personally, and of course to our viewers. So thank you for coming on. I appreciate having you on. I'm going to have you back if that's okay, because I think there's so much more that you can share. So I'd love to have you back as well.
Absolutely. That'd be great. That'd be fun.
Awesome. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Till next time, Danielle Chiasson, your host, signing off for now. Bye.